Yeah, so welcome back, Elaine, to the live session for another Art of Letting Go live call. Let's have a look at our daily quote today, and I think let's do as you asked, we'll do the text to start with, and then the lesson at the end of it, and then finish with a meditation. Hopefully we have time to do all that. Okay, so all right. Um, okay, so if you can just read that headline quote to kick it off, intro into the session. Can you read that?
Yes. How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you.
It's quite a profound quote by an Indian poet, artist, and performer, which should be obvious, but like the best Zen koans, obvious is obscured and upside down thought system. So it needs to be deeply contemplated to come obvious to the student. So just to start the session, just ask yourself the question, how do I truly love myself? Take a deep breath in. Ask yourself the question, how do I truly love myself? Just sit quietly for a few moments and wait for an answer. Maybe there's some thoughts coming up, some feelings. If you reach a state where nothing comes to you, in other words, you have no thoughts or emotions, you've experienced the answer that will prepare you well to read the lesson and the text. So anything come up for you, Elaine?
Just it's saying to follow your heart.
Hmm. How do I truly love myself? Follow your heart. Kind of obvious, really, because love is something that's felt.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it in your heart. That's why we say, you feel it in your heart, or it's heartfelt. This kind of language, and you feel an energy in your chest. That's where
Yes.
the heart center is. Whereas the mind, gets when you're all in your mind and turbulated, you find the energy goes up here, doesn't it? It's all
Yes,
your head
definitely.
feels like it's going to explode sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about really trying to drop in to the heart space. Okay, I can take my attention inward into that lovely heart space where I just feel into what these teachings are saying. And it's really where the workbook is going now. It's very experiential. It's not just short couple of paragraphs, pointers into this kind of heartfelt space where you actually feel quite deeply. And so I'd encourage you to really try and go deeper into the lessons and feel it. So it's not really the words, it's the feeling that the words can activate, can stimulate in you. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll do you're asked to do the text first. Let's do that, and then finish
Yeah.
off. This is quite a nice way to finish off with a lesson and then a
Yeah.
meditation where we just
That's, that's
go
perfect.
into an experience of, okay, use the words as pointers, having done the text, which is quite wordy. just go into experiential knowing and understanding
Yeah.
uh, in the lesson. All right, so this is today's lesson, today's text reading is called Beyond All Symbols.
Mm.
8 paragraphs, I think. So now 7 paragraphs, not too bad with the summary. Okay, so no, not much to translate here, really. So we just want to read an alternative.
Yeah.
It'll just be obviously personalized in the first person.
Yeah. True power cannot oppose, for opposition weakens it, and weakened power is a contradiction in ideas. Weak strength is meaningless, and the power used to weaken is employed to limit, and therefore it must be limited and weak, because that is its purpose. True power is unopposed and is merely itself. No weakness can intrude on it without changing it into something it is not. To weaken is to limit and impose an opposite that contradicts the concept that it attacks, and through this it joins something it is not to the idea and makes it unintelligible. Who can understand an apparently contradictory concept such as weakened power or hateful love? So it's just talking about this true power cannot be opposed because opposition weakens it. So this weak strength is meaningless. So therefore it must be limited and weak. So it's saying true power is not opposed. It's merely itself. So it's saying no weakness can intrude on it.
Yeah, these paradoxes are meaningless. Yeah. So the world is full of these kinds of paradoxes. But he's saying none of them are meaningful, none of them are true. See them all as the product of an impossible idea, an impossible thought system. So any contradiction to true power is meaningless, doesn't really exist. True power is unopposed and is merely itself. All contradictions, then from that standpoint, if that statement is true, must be illusion. And this does away with all these crazy ideas that we've come up with, the apparently contradictory nature of this world. You know, things like weakened power, hateful love, I love you, but I hate you. I love to hate you. You know, there's many of these kinds of contradictions in the world. All of them become meaningless and absurd in the face of the true power that's unopposed. And our job is just to remember that there is one simple truth, one power, and all these contradictions simply need to be dismissed. You can't try and make sense of them. You try and make sense of them, you're trying to make sense of insanity. It doesn't work. You can try and try. We have, haven't we? We tried over and over to try and make sense of what doesn't make sense. And
Yes,
that's really the story of the world. Everyone's trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense. And it's a futile attempt because you try and you try and you try and you never will make sense of it because it doesn't make sense.
And what's that
So
expression? You can't reason with the unreasonable. That's another contradiction. You can't reason with the
yeah,
unreasonable. That's a popular
yeah,
expression. Yeah.
yeah. So these are the kinds of contradictions that occur in a world that's insane, where you have, yes, in this world you experience unreasonable things, unreasonable people. The world is an unreasonable place because it's outside of true reason. You know, the reasoning of love is not here. It's the reasoning of an insane thought system.
Yeah.
And we try and make sense of that. And we come into
We
life
do.
and we try and figure it out. And we try and somehow make sense of this world and frame it in a way that's okay, that makes sense. I've kind of got a handle on this now. And then usually just when we think we've got a handle on it, then something happens, right? To disturb that seeming equilibrium. And then we have to try and adjust again and go, okay, well, I've got to get a new handle on this. Ever moving. It's like an ever moving target, and you're trying to sight the target and it keeps moving. Or there's a saying, the goalposts keep moving. That's another
Yeah, you keep changing the
contradiction in the
goalposts.
world,
Yeah, yes,
The
I've heard that.
goalposts keep moving. Okay, so you think the goal is there, and then whoa, you just move the goalposts. Oh, okay, so now you thought you were shooting there, but now the goalposts have moved. These kinds of contradictions are what he's talking about. And none of them are meaningful, none of them are true, and none of them are real, fortunately. So we just need to perceive them correctly and say these contradictions mean nothing and are just parts of this illusory world. To try and make sense of them is to try and make sense of insanity. It's just saying don't do that because it's never going to work. You never will make sense of insanity. You just need to see it for what it is. These are meaningless contradictions. It cannot be rationalized. It cannot really be made sense of. They just need to be seen as what they are. They're a product of an insane mind, and they need to be let go of. Don't try and justify them, make them real, explain them. And of course, the ego is trying to do that all the time. It creates intricate, elaborate thought systems, whole bodies of knowledge. Science and history and geography and biology and all these things to try and make sense of the unreasonable. And this teaching is saying you can't just see it all for what it is, and throw it all out. You've got to let it all go in your mind, because none of it's actually true. None of it's meaningful. None of it's ever going to work. None of it's ever going to bring you happiness, peace, joy, satisfaction, what you really yearn for. It's really just designed to keep your mind spinning around in the dream world, seeking and seeking and seeking, and never really finding the answer.
Yeah, I get that. Especially with relationships, you try to work out, well, wonder why they're behaving like that, blah, blah, blah. But you're going around in circles.
Yeah. And you're trying to make sense of the unreasonable. If you're trying to work out why the ego is behaving the way it is, you're always going to be mystified. It's like that makes no sense at all.
No, it's
I've had
very
that
true, and I
today.
fall for it.
Someone's
I
like,
keep falling.
promised me something, he's promised to send me an agreement on Friday. I'm like, okay, so I leave him for the weekend, message him today, what's happening? No, I'm really busy now. I'm really urgent. I'm like, what? So you had it ready on Friday, supposedly. Now you're not sending it. I mean, it's a 1-minute job. If you've got the agreement, to attach an agreement to an email or WhatsApp message takes 30 seconds maybe. So it doesn't make sense. So I'm trying to figure it out. And it's like, no, don't try and figure it out, John. Just let it go. It doesn't make sense.
I know that feeling.
You know
Well,
that feeling.
yeah, of course, many times, yeah. Well,
And then you get frustrated because you're like, well, you're trying to figure it out and it doesn't make sense. But I
frustrated,
think,
and
the
then anger
lesson is,
starts. Yeah, then you start
yeah,
looking
well,
at it.
frustration is a form of anger. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was just like, okay, I need to do some practice and I need to let it go rather than pushing and going, okay, so, like what's going on? Where is it? Where is it? I've asked him several times. Okay, I need to meditate on it. I need to do some letting go work. And then maybe it'll just be forthcoming. There's a reason. He probably doesn't have it. His legal department haven't sent it. Who knows, but the pushing, stressing, straining, striving approach doesn't work. It just gets you wound up. It gets you bound up into that frustrated.
Been there many times, yes.
Yeah, it is. And then you're just like, why isn't this
Yeah.
working? And then the ego says, well, push some
Frustration.
more.
Yeah.
Push some more. Get it done. So send a terse text message. Say, come, like what's going on here? What is this, etc. Which then is really lacking love. But your ego is going, well, this person's being ridiculous. Like, why aren't they doing what they said they do? So these are the kinds of normal experiences. I mean, everyone's experienced this kind of stuff where you're trying to make sense of the unreasonable and what doesn't make sense. And the Holy Spirit just says, none of this is true. Don't try and make sense of it. Let it go. Don't react to what doesn't make sense. Don't react to it. Although you still got to deal with it. You don't have to react to it. There's a
Mm.
choice you always have.
That,
You know, I can just go, okay, well, I'll let it
that's the
go and I'll just
balance.
see what happens for a few days.
Hmm.
We've still got a bit of time, and if nothing comes in, okay, I'll make a decision. But
Mm.
if I get wound up into frustration and then pushing, and then you start getting
Getting
aggressive and
angry.
unkind,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
inevitably the person gets their back up and go, okay, like no, I'm feeling guilty because actually they haven't done what they said they would do. I mean, if you say
Hmm.
I'll send something and you don't do it, there's a natural guilt, isn't there? Okay, well,
Course.
I should have done that. I promised, and then I haven't done it, and I still haven't done it. It's like, I look bad. No one wants to look bad. So then guilt breeds defensiveness, or it breeds attacking thoughts and behavior, and then you
Mm.
get caught up in the ego's insane
And then
system.
it can go on for a long, long time. It can linger on.
Yeah. You can have
It can be
conflict with people.
feuds, and
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Legal action, and sometimes that can take months or years,
Oh,
and
yeah.
people get, really embroiled in this stuff. And really, I just want a solution. It's like, okay, we need to move forward because we need to get the commission agreement out. So, the commission can be paid. It's simple. So, okay, but the Holy Spirit says, let it go, leave it to me, and I'll sort it, in a
Yeah.
way that maybe your ego, of course, won't understand that. Ego says, no, no, you got to push to get it done. Holy Spirit says, no, let it go, step back, and just allow some flow to come in and allow a miracle to happen,
Mm.
and just trust. And you see those, you can experience those two different thought systems
Clearly.
quite viscerally. Yeah. So okay, so I've got a situation. There's the one part of your mind that's going, come on, like get angry, get aggressive, make it happen. The other
Hmm.
part saying, no, just
Let
there's
it
this is
go.
a setup. The ego sets you up for this. It's another ego temptation to believe in its insane thought system and get yourself wound up and upset and deny the peace of God again. And so
Hmm.
don't fall because that's what's really going on. It's a temptation. It's a trap. Don't fall for
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
And those two will never reconcile. They're different voices. They're opposite. You
Hmm.
can't do both. You can't get wound up and frustrated and also let it go and be peaceful. They're opposite movements of the mind,
Hmm.
and they have opposite results. So again, the course says you have to choose. It's one or the other, but you can't choose both. All right, so let's go on to number 2. And just being an alternative, I've decided my companions.
I have decided that my companions are a symbol for hateful love, a weakened power, and above all, a living death. And so they have no meaning to me, for they stand for what is meaningless. They represent a paradoxical thought where half is cancelled out by the other half. Yet even this is quickly contradicted by the half it cancelled out, and so they are both gone. And now they stand for nothing. Symbols which only represent ideas that cannot exist must stand for empty space and nothingness. Yet nothingness and empty space cannot really interfere with reality. What can interfere with my awareness of reality is my belief in separation that believes there is something really there. So it's just, we're recognizing this hateful love or weakened power, which is basically a living death. So really, there's no meaning there. It's meaningless. They're a paradoxical thought system and cancel each other out. And so really they stand for nothing. Yet nothingness and empty space cannot really interfere with reality. So what they're saying is what can interfere with my awareness of reality is our belief in separation. that believes there is something real out there when there's not. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's all just an illusion.
Yeah, so the whole thing is, I mean, this is a living death. Think about the world. You know, you live, but then inevitably you're going to die.
Yeah.
Every living thing here comes, they have a lifespan of however many years, some shorter, some longer, and eventually they die. Well, that's a living death.
Mm.
Is that meaningful? How can such a contradiction be meaningful and sane? How do you make sense of that?
Mm.
So you live just to die? You die to live? You live to die? You see, they cancel each other out. Like, well, so am I alive or am I dead?
Mm.
Actually, I'm just in a dream world. I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming that I'm a separate self who now is doomed to suffer and die. But that dream isn't real. I'm just caught up in a dream, in a virtual reality show, which is very difficult to escape now because this kind of insane thinking is so deeply entrenched in my mind. It's become projected out. But nevertheless, if you really look at it, it doesn't make any sense. And this is what
No.
the course is asking us to do. Look beyond the form of it and, oh, okay, well, I can see all these people and places and events. It must be real. Look to the thought system and go, well, does it make any sense to be born and then have to die?
Mm.
Surely, you're either alive or you're dead. How can you have a living death? And so the whole of human experience and any experience of any form in this world, in this universe, is completely paradoxical. It's a living death. You're born, but you're doomed to die from the moment you're born. And that's just going to play out over a span of time that you call your lifetime. And then you die, but you don't really die because your mind can't die. So then you recycle, you get born again into another body, and you do it all over again.
Mm.
And you live to die again, and you do this again and again and again. And Yeshua's saying, does this make any sense whatsoever to do this again and again and again?
Mm.
And anyone with just a purely logical mind, if you just look at it objectively, you go, no, that makes no sense whatsoever. Why am I doing this? Why am I being born? And then I have to go through this whole illusion of a life, and there's inevitably suffering and pain, and eventually I die, and I have to do that over and over again. Why? Is that God's will that I do that? Or is this just a complete departure from God's will? I'm just dreaming. I'm in my own self-created illusory reality, kind of mind trap, the matrix of the mind that I got caught up in, from which I can escape if I choose to. And this is obviously what the course is trying to teach us. Okay, actually, you're in this mind-created matrix or reality, and you can choose to escape it. And the mechanism of escape is forgiveness or letting go. That's how you're going to escape it, by completely letting go of all the thoughts and emotions that are engendered by this world. All right, so happy with that. Let's go on to number 3, shall we?
Yeah.
Picture of my companions.
The picture of my companions that I see means nothing. There is nothing to attack or deny, to love or hate, to endow with power or to perceive as weak. The picture has been completely cancelled out because it symbolizes the contradiction that cancels out the thought the picture represents. And so the picture has no real cause at all. Who can perceive effect without a cause? What can the causeless be except nothingness? The picture of my companions that I see is wholly absent and has never really been there. Now I choose to recognize the empty space it occupies as vacant, and the time I devoted to its perception as a waste of time in which I was really unoccupied. Well, they're just saying that how we see our companions actually means nothing. There's nothing to attack or deny, love or hate. The picture is completely cancelled out because there's a contradiction. It cancels out thought the picture represents. So the picture that we see has no real cause at all. So how can you perceive without a cause? So what can the causeless be except this nothingness? And that
Yeah,
they've
I
never
think
really
maybe
been there.
should we change picture to image? Would that make more sense?
Yeah, that's good.
The image of
Yeah.
my companions
Yeah.
that I perceive means nothing. Because it's an image, really, right? This is a construct in our mind. We all give people an image. They have their own self-image. We have an image of them. Image is similar to picture, but it's maybe a bit more suggestive of the conceptual nature of it. That the image isn't just what you see with your body's eyes, it's the interpretation of what you see and what you perceive. And that picture or image is false, right? You've constructed a false image for everyone you know. That's what the ego does. It creates a false self-image for them. And your self-image and their self-image are then connected. You see, your self-image perceives their self-image as real. But if your self-image is false, then so must what it perceives be false. And this is the way the ego perpetuates itself. One false self-image perceives another to be real, and they confirm in each other's perception that they are real. And they reinforce it. It's a self-reinforcing system. Until you question it from outside of that system. Say, well, actually, are any of these images real? Maybe none of it's real. If my self-image that is perceiving and judging the world and other people isn't real, then how can they be real? How can that image that I'm perceiving be real? You see, that's what he's saying. It's actually a contradiction. So the picture, the image has no real cause at all, right? It's just made up. My ego mind has made it up, like it's made up the rest of the projected world. And there's no real cause at all, because that's the whole point. The ego has no true causation. It's just a tiny mad idea. If we go back to this diagram, descent into hell diagram, it's a tiny mad idea of separation, which never really happened. So anything that comes from an idea that is false, that never really happened, can't be real. So your self-image, which then projects itself out into the world and perceives other separate self-images, cannot be true or real or meaningful in any way if the underlying idea behind all of that, the idea of separation, is false. You see the logic of this? There is this perfect logic that the Holy Spirit reminds you of and says, okay, so no, none of these images have any real cause. And so, what you're perceiving is meaningless. The image of my companions that I perceive is wholly absent and has never really been there. I choose to recognize the empty space it occupies as vacant and the time I devoted to its perception as a waste of time, which was really unoccupied. What's he saying? It's quite humbling, isn't it? I choose to recognize the empty space it occupies as vacant. So I've had my whole life with all of these relationships, and I'm projecting all these images onto people. Yeah, and that's what special relationships are. It's my self-image interacting with your self-image, and those two false self-images make each other real. And they play all kinds of ridiculous games and charades, and many of which are painful. It just perpetuate the apparent fact that they exist, right? That's the whole game. The ego is saying, no, you exist because look, by your hand, your brother's done this to you, and now you're the victim, and now you deserve to be upset, and you can get angry, and there's justification for your anger, And all that does is confirm your false self-image is real. And that's the whole game. That's kind of laughable, isn't it? You just got to go, that's just totally insane. And all the drama that goes on in human relationships is really for no other purpose than to confirm the individual false self-concepts or images of each person in the situation are real. And it does that quite effectively, if you think about it. Whenever you're in any kind of interpersonal argument, conflict, even a minor irritation with someone, what does it do? It makes that separate self-image of yours very real. And you feel separated from that person and usually from everyone else, doesn't it? So it does it very effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what's really going on. And Yeshua's just saying, well, actually it's all just been a waste of time. Time I devoted to its perception is a waste of time which I was really unoccupied. None of that really meant anything. It was all just complete waste of time. Fortunately, now you're starting to wake up and realize, well, it is a waste of time. Let me not spend time on it anymore. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Let's go on to number 4.
Yeah. An empty space that I do not perceive. Oops. Sorry, the dog just jumped up there. An empty space that I do not perceive as filled and unused. Sorry, it's just got interrupted by the dog there. An empty space that I do not perceive as filled and an unused interval of time I do not perceive as spent and fully occupied, become a silent invitation to the truth to enter and make itself at home. I can make no preparation that would enhance the invitation's real appeal. For what I leave vacant, pure formless awareness of perfect love will fill, and the truth must live where it is. Unweakened power with no opposite is what being is, and there are no symbols for this. Nothing points beyond the truth for what can stand for more than everything. Yet true correction must be kind. And so the first replacement for my image is another image of another kind.
Okay.
So it's talking about this empty space that we don't actually perceive as filled, is unused in interval of time. So to be spent fully occupied and become silent, a silent invitation to the truth to enter, so that we can enter into this pure formless awareness of perfect love that fills the truth. And so this unweakened power with no opposite is what being is. So there's nothing points to the truth that for what can stand for more than everything. So it's got to be kind, this truth, this true correction. So the first replacement for my image is another image of another kind.
Do you understand what he means there?
It's a little bit ambiguous.
Another image of another kind. So what we might want to say there. So the first replacement for my points for what can stand for more than everything. A true correction must be kind. So the first replacement for my image, my picture, is another I think that might make a bit more sense, you know? And so the first replacement for my self-image is another self-concept of another kind. This is what he's talking about. My false self-image is another self, another self-concept of another kind. And that self-concept is the Christ, is the true self. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we don't go straight from pure formless awareness into straight from illusion into pure formless awareness, as shown here. Right? If you're caught up in the separate self and you believe in it and all its experiences and time and space, you're not just going to go suddenly straight into pure formless awareness of perfect love permanently. You might have a little glimpse of it. That can happen. People can go, oh, wow, that was like, I had an epiphany. Amazing.
I mean,
And
you can you not get moments, for example, when you just sort of actually do a self-inquiry, which I had to do occasionally, and you don't get this wonderful fireworks, but you just get this general peace,
yeah.
and you're just light-hearted. Everything seems light-hearted. So that is when you say to yourself, "Who am I? I'm not what I was in the past, and I'm not what I am in the future. So what am I?" And then it sort of does automatically, that question brings you straight to the nothingness. There's just a blank.
Yeah.
And that in itself is like, that's all right, actually. I'd rather be in that state than this.
Yeah. Well, this is the intermediary state, the true self, the Christ, the Son of
Yeah.
God,
So that's
extension of love, the Buddha, the Atman, whatever language you want to use.
It's an ordinary feeling. It's not like I say, I'm not jumping through hoops and fireworks are going off, but it's just an ordinary peace. But that's far superior than the constantly being in the past or the future. So is that classed as the true self, that ordinary peace that you just see that you are not that past. And then if you look into the future, think, well, that's how do I know what's going to happen in the future? So what am I?
Yeah.
That's
this is true perception or Christ's vision that he talks about.
Yeah, so that
so
bit
you're still perceiving, there's still a self perceiving the world, but you're perceiving the world differently.
Yeah, just in this quiet, ordinary peace.
Yeah.
Without all the addiction to the yakka with all the past and then what's going to happen in the future and that person and this person, and it's just crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and this true self is the intermediary stage. So
that must be that.
He's saying to us in the course, you need to learn this. It's unrealistic to think you're going to go straight from here,
possible,
rooted in your ego, and suddenly you're just going to go, oh, well, I'll just drop all that and I'll just be in pure formless awareness of perfect love and poof, pop, I'm done. I'm out of here. For the majority of people, vast majority, occasionally there's someone like a Ramana Maharshi who does that, but almost certainly he didn't do that. It's very rare, and he was an advanced soul, so he'd probably done a lot of spiritual work in previous lifetimes. And he came in, and at a young age, at 16, he had this one remaining experience, which just took him into this state, and he managed to stay there pretty much consistently for the rest of his life. That's pretty unusual. It doesn't happen normally like that. Normally, you might get a little glimpse of this, and then the ego comes along, and it's playing in all of this muck, and it's the monkey mind's chattering away, and then Yeshua's saying, well, okay, I'm going to give you practice and training to help you to restore your mind into a true perception coming from your true self. And this is what the miracle is. The miracle is the restoration of your mind to a state of true perception arising from your true self, which knows that ultimately it is one with the source, with pure formless awareness of perfect love, but is still able to perceive. So you can look on the world, but instead of judging it and getting angry and upset and doing the ego's whole drama, you're just quite peaceful about it. Okay, it's okay. I can look at all this and not judge it and not get upset about it and just let go of those negative thoughts and emotions. And that mechanism is simply that's what we're studying. That's what the miracle is. That's what this whole course is teaching primarily. He doesn't teach you the meaning of love, as he says in the introduction. He says, this course does not aim to teach the meaning of love because that's beyond what can be taught. So I can't teach you this. This awareness will come when you're ready. But he can teach us how to correct our minds, to let go of our illusions, to come into true perception based on our true self. Our true self is now perceiving the world through its eyes correctly. And that's what the miracle is. That transformation from the ego to the true self and true perception is the miracle. That's what we study for. That's what we do the mind training for. And that's why all of it's important, both the text and the workbook. Because the workbook just reminds you, okay, just keep going back there. Keep going back there. It's an ongoing practice. You're going to get tested. You're going to come, the ego's going to come calling and try and get you to identify with all of this as a separate self. But when it does that, you have to remind yourself that you are the true self in the Christ and correct your perception. And in a nutshell, that's what the Course is training us to do. That's why it's called the Course in Miracles. The miracles are this transformation of perception. It's not a course in divine love because that's beyond what can be taught. It's not aiming to teach us that. It's just aiming to remove the blocks to that awareness so that eventually that awareness will arise spontaneously and naturally when all the blocks have been removed. But first we have to concentrate on removing the blocks, which is the Course's focus. That's why it's called a Course in Miracles rather than a Course in Love or Course in Revelation. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. All right, so happy to go on to number 5.
Yep. As nothingness cannot be pictured, so there is no symbol for totality. Reality is ultimately known without a form, unpictured and unseen. Letting go is not yet a power known as wholly free of limits. Yet it sets no limits I have chosen to impose. Letting go is the means by which the truth is represented temporarily. It lets the remembrance of perfect love make the exchange of pictures possible until the time when aids like this are meaningless and learning is over. No learning aid has a use that can extend beyond the goal of learning. When its aim has been accomplished, it is functionless. Yet in the time of learning, it has a use that I now fear, but will yet come to love. So it's saying that nothingness cannot be pictured. It's nothing. So, and there's no symbol for the totality. So it's known without a form, unpictured, unseen. So it's this letting go to the power, but power known as wholly free of limits. But we don't really know it, do we? We have to let go of going into the unknown because it sets no limits, but we have to take that leap, really. So letting go is the means by which the truth is represented. So it's just, again, taking that plunge.
And these images can be swapped. So this is a compromise solution. It's just saying, the formless and the timeless is so far beyond your current experience that you need an intermediary kind of stage to go through. And so you need to translate the ego's misperceptions of the world, all of its images and projections onto the world with the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation. That's the function of the true self. And true perception is really the Holy Spirit in action. Holy Spirit is the actual mechanism of that transformation. So when you change your mind from an egoic perception to a love-inspired one, then that's the miracle. And that is the Holy Spirit in work, in action. So that's the focus of the course. He's saying focus on that, get that right, because that's going to lead you into the state of pure formless awareness, of perfect love, ultimately. Into this timeless, eternal, infinite realm where there just is, God is, and then we cease to speak, where that becomes your awareness, and you've corrected all of these illusions. You no longer need to believe in any of them, and you're quite happy just to remain in pure formless awareness of perfect love for the rest of your, for all eternity. For the ego, that's mind-blowing, and the ego doesn't understand that, and the ego has huge fear of that, because in this awareness, there is no ego. It disappears. So this is non-existence for the ego and its entire world, everything here, and indeed everything here. There's no true self or Christ or Son of God, extension of love, Buddha, Atman. There's no true perception, miracle, salvation, at-one-ment, enlightenment. These are all still parts of the illusion. They're a necessary part while we are waking up. So as he says, letting go is not yet a power known as wholly free of limits, yet it sets no limits I've chosen to impose. So it's the one illusion, as he says at some point in the course, that actually doesn't breed more illusions. It's the one illusion that actually undoes all other illusions and sets you free, because it represents the truth temporarily. So you forgive or you let go, and you can see a little glimpse of that truth represented in the situation. And often that comes as some kind of miraculous outcome, and you go, oh, wow, that's pretty amazing. Didn't see that coming. Truth is being represented temporarily there to show you in your dark dream of death and disaster that there is something else to hope for.
Well, that's, yeah, because I'm having a problem for the forgiveness of a family member, Dave's son. I mean, yeah. And I get a glimpse, but I still keep doing this compromise forgiveness. And I think, no, radical forgiveness, radical, because I keep sort of doing, oh, but this and this is, he was like, blah, blah, blah. But then I thought, you're doing the compromise one again, which gave a bit of relief. But then I said, you've got to go for the jugular. You've got to do the radical. And that one I'm still managing for a short while, and then it rises its ugly head. So you've got to keep going back into that forgiveness, because it keeps coming up. You've forgiven, but obviously not completely.
Because the ego is using that image of that person in your mind to maintain its hold in your mind. You see how it works? So you make that situation real, and you start dwelling on those thoughts, and you feel the anger, the frustration, whatever else comes up, and it makes that separate self, Elaine, real. And you're using the image of that person in your mind. It has nothing to do with any kind of relationship or physical interaction between you at that point, because that person is just in your mind.
Oh, yes.
So what is it? It's an image in your mind that you've projected. And you're creating that image, and you're recreating that image for that person every time you think about them in that way. You see that? That's what he's saying. It's a false image of that person. And the more you think about that image, the more that image becomes real to you. And the more your self-image relationship to this guy, and this is my relationship, and now I'm in an antagonistic relationship because my interests and his are not aligned, and he wants something and I don't want him to get what he wants. And you tell yourself that whole story, and you get identified with the Elaine character, the self-image, don't you? When you do that.
I do, yeah. It's true.
Yeah, and that's how it works. And it's a setup. So the course is asking us to backtrack and go, hang on, just look at what's going on here. Understand that you've been caught up in this dream world, and the ego wants you to engage in this kind of fantasy and judging an image, and then your image gets strengthened, and you get caught up in thoughts and feelings and words and actions, about images. But none of these images are true. The whole point of the teaching is that all images, all form is false. So whatever the form of this person is doing is simply illusory. It's a false self-image, projecting itself as real in this world. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And you see how cunning the ego is in relationships to keep these images going. It has to create drama between these apparently separate characters, which is why the ego has created a world of drama and pain and suffering and sickness and death, because without the drama, what would keep the self-images of these people as separate alive? Why would they continue to believe they're separate if there weren't drama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
no,
the
it's
world requires the drama in order to perpetuate these false self-images. But you do have the choice to step back from that, look on it from afar, from a top-down, high-level perspective, and go, okay, I see the game, right? I'm just being asked, the ego is asking me to identify with this self-image. That's my character in this dream or this movie. And it's asking me to fully identify with the character so that I lose myself in the character. And I forget that I'm not a character. I forget that I'm really just pure formless awareness of perfect love, because the character becomes so embroiled in it. And that's the only purpose of the world. That's why you're here, is to embroil yourself in illusions and forget the truth. All right. Any other thoughts on number 5?
No, that's clear.
Okay.
The picture of my companions. Oh, yeah, the image.
Let's make it the image. Yeah.
Yes, the image of my companions given to me occupy the space so lately, left unoccupied and vacant, will not need defense of any kind, for I will give it overwhelming preference, nor delay a moment in deciding that it is the only one I want. It does not stand for paradoxical concepts, though it is only half the picture and is incomplete. It is the same within itself. The other half of what it represents remains unknown to me, but is not cancelled out. And so is pure formless awareness of perfect love left free to take the final step itself. I need no images and no learning aids for this. And what will ultimately take the place of every learning aid will merely be.
Okay. Thoughts on that?
Well, again, about this image of our companions to occupy our space, but left unoccupied and vacant will not need defense of any kind. So it's just jumping into this formless awareness, and then the image will just disappear. It says there, though, it is only half the image and is incomplete.
Yeah.
So it's just this such a contradiction, yeah.
The other half the picture is the same within itself. The other
Yeah. The other half represents remains unknown to me.
half of what it represents, known to me, is not cancelled out. So those pure formless awareness of perfect love, they're free to take the final step itself. I need no images and no learning aids for this, and what will ultimately take the place of every learning aid will merely be. So he's kind of saying to us, just go so far with me, and this awareness will eventually take over. God will take the final step, is another way of saying that. This awareness will eventually take over. And you just got to trust that.
That's the bit, yeah. It's letting it all go. Just know that you're going to be safe because you're going to be going into the absolute unknown. So it's going into the unknown and letting go of everything, isn't it? Letting go of what all you know, let it all drop away.
Yeah. And for the ego, that's terrifying because it clings to the known world. It says, this is who you are, this is your reality. Let's look at the hero's journey picture quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It says, this known world, the normal known world, is your home, and this is something that's important, and you need to defend it. And it's terrified of the unknown. It doesn't want to step out into the unknown, which is really a domain of change perception. Doesn't mean you're going anywhere physically. Sometimes you may on your journey, but it may just be, you stay where you are, but now your perception's changing. You're going to an unknown phase of perception. So the key is to step out of the unknown and step out of the known into the unknown, and be willing to do that repeatedly and say, okay, I don't know, but I trust that there is one who knows. This power within me, we call the Holy Spirit, does know what this experience is about, and it does know how to take me through this experience, which can be very difficult, going through the death and the rebirth. Take me through this experience and awaken through it. And then what will merely, he ends off saying, I need no images and no learning aids for this. What will ultimately take the place of every learning aid will merely be. At the highest level, there are no learning aids. You don't need mentors and trials and growth and new skills. And at the highest level, you enter into your source, the revelation, and you're able to stay there without any learning aids. Right? So there's no learning necessary in heaven. There are no techniques necessary in heaven. You simply are that awareness. I am that I am, as expressed as the first name of God in the Bible. It makes so much sense now. You go, well, of course, that's going to be the name of God. And of course, very few people understood what was meant. They didn't get it because they still had this idea of God the Father, some kind of, distant off-planet God. That's not really there. And that sits in some kind of righteous judgment and condemnation of you. All right, so that's the hero's journey. So a little reflection on that. So any other thoughts, comments, or questions on number 6?
No, that's clear.
Go to number 7.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 7.
Letting go vanishes, symbols fade away, and nothing that my eyes have ever seen or ears have ever heard remains for me to perceive. A holy, limitless power has come, not to destroy, but to receive its own. There is no choice of function anywhere. I never had the choice I feared to lose. Yet only this appears to interfere with unlimited power and single thoughts that are complete and joyful without opposite. I do not know the peace of power that opposes nothing, yet no other kind can exist at all. I welcome the power beyond letting go and the world of symbols and limitations. It merely wants to be, and so it merely is. So I suppose it's at the stage of letting go into this limitless power
Hmm.
and understand it's not there to destroy, or you're there to receive its own. You are it.
Yeah, in the end, the only realization is that you are this power. You are not separate from it in any way, shape, or form. It is you, you are it. It doesn't need symbols, it doesn't need limitations, it doesn't need any of that stuff the ego requires. It merely wants to be, and so it merely is.
Mm-hmm.
and you
So
just drop
simple.
into the isness of it. Yeah, it is extraordinarily simple, and that's why it's so difficult, because the ego is not simple. The ego is
Yeah.
highly complex and convoluted, and so we got caught up in the complexity and the convolutions. And the ego is saying, well, work it out with more complexity. You need
Keep
complex ideas and models and systems, and
keep
all the
seeking.
all the
Seek.
systems of thought, of knowledge in the ego world are complicated. Think of science and biology and
Mm-hmm.
engineering and maths and all these fields. It's like, oh, it gets really, really. I mean, if people study this stuff for years and they get PhDs, and you go down this complicated rabbit hole of thought, and actually it's all laughable because it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the more complicated you get, the harder it is for you to recognize the simplicity, which is why often, the uneducated, the simple,
Mm.
are,
Did he
are
get
are
it?
actually often more awakened. There's an experience I'll tell you. I wasn't actually there, but it
Mm.
was on one of these transformational workshops I went on, and they had an exercise where you had 6 matchsticks, and you had to create 4 equilateral triangles with 6 matchsticks. And they gave it to
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and everyone did it. But there was a professor, there was a PhD, right? He's on the course. And
Mm.
the PhD could not get it. Said they waited like an hour. He was the last person. And eventually he got so angry and frustrated that he just went, no, I can't do it. And he walked out and he didn't come back to the course. Now,
Mm.
why couldn't he do it and the others could? That's the question. And
Did
he
he have his?
couldn't do it because he was so, although he had all this intellectual knowledge, he's clearly intellectual and bright in one way. You don't get a PhD without it. His
Mm.
mind had become too trained in a certain way of thinking. It wasn't open to creative thought and going,
Mm.
oh, okay, hang on. Like, I need to try some different stuff here because my body of knowledge is not going to give me the answer that I need. And so he
Mm.
kept trying, obviously, to work it out with his intellectual mind and whatever he learned, and he just hit a block. He hit a wall. He couldn't do it with that limited self-concept. He had to go outside of that self-concept and drop all that. And if he'd been willing to do that, then he would have really learned the lesson. He would have gone, oh, wow,
Mm.
I actually went outside of that, broke through into another level, and then he would have solved the problem. But he couldn't do it. His ego was too strong. And research shows that the more you go into formal education, you go beyond honors to masters and PhD, the creativity drops dramatically. So if you want to remain creative, don't do that. That's the answer. Yeah, I felt that because I did an honors degree, and then I was like, no, going further than this. I wasn't going to go do masters or anything, but I had to go and do it was called a graduate diploma in accounting. And something intuitively in me was like, just like, no, you know what, that's going too far. You're going way too far into this very limiting thought system because accounting is very limited. It's all about the rules and generally accepted accounting practice. And someone's created these rules, which are just a bunch of rules. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're the truth. They don't necessarily even mean they're same. Some of them I was like, I don't really understand that. Why are you doing that? A lot of it didn't make sense, which is why then you get creative accountants because you can manipulate those rules to suit you. So I was like, well, why am I studying? It's just a bunch of rules made up by a bunch of people, and they asked me to believe this, and it doesn't really make sense to me. It's
Mm.
not creative. I'm not creating anything new or innovative or exciting. It's just like following this generally accepted accounting practice. So my mind just rejected. I was like, no, I can't go further into this for that reason because your creativity gets limited. Whereas this is saying, the ever fresh, ever present isness of your being is always there. And if you tap into that, all the answers are there. That can give you guidance and answers in this very miraculous, synchronistic way if you listen to it. In a way we can't really fathom with the intellectual mind. Like, how does pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is totally, formless, how does that translate into some kind of functional thought system in this world? That's the miracle of it. We don't really understand that, but it does. It can, if you allow it. but you've got to allow it to direct you and surrender to that rather than trying to control it and direct it with your own mind. And that's where the letting go of surrender comes in. All right. So there's just a summary. I want to read that quickly, and the key message to summarize it.
Yeah. Power cannot oppose, and any opposition weakens it. Concepts like weakened power or hateful love are contradictory and unintelligible. I perceived my companions through a lens of contradiction, making them stand for meanings that are inherently meaningless. These flawed perceptions, which are rooted in my belief in separation, leave me perceiving an image that has no real foundation. When left vacant,
so just summarize that. It's just a nice way to summarize the whole thing and encapsulate, isn't it? It's like, okay, so have I understood the central ideas of the text?
Yeah. It's just saying that the power it cannot oppose any opposition that weakens it. So concepts like weakened power or hateful love are contradictory. So we've seen our companions through this lens of contradiction, which is really meaningless. So these flawed perceptions are rooted in this belief in separation, and so leaving me perceiving an image that has no real foundation.
And you see why special relationships don't work, because it's a false image, your own false self-concept or image, perceiving another false self-image. And now these two false self-images are trying to have some kind of real relationship, but they're both false.
Yes, but there are some couples that are married for 50 years and they've sort of seen through all the silliness of the specialness.
Yeah,
seem to have
that's
managed
the holy
to,
relationship. If you've done that, then
yeah,
you've
there's,
transcended
especially
the
in the
level of special.
olden days, they seem
Hmm.
to sort of stick it out through the hard times.
Well, I suspect there was a lot of unhappiness. You know, they just didn't get divorced because that was not the done thing. So
Mm,
often a lot of those marriages were special relationships, but they just kind of went, well, we just kind of stick it out and held together because that's what we're supposed to do, rather than
yeah,
separate.
true. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I think there was probably a lot of that going on, but maybe, you know, if you do stick it out and they would genuinely forgive each other, you get to a point where there's some kind of unconditional love
yeah,
that
yeah.
arises, and you
There
go,
there
I
are
love
some.
you. Hmm.
Yeah, I've seen some couples that seem to stick it through for 50 or more years and seem happy enough, so they've
Hmm.
obviously managed to see through the specialness of a typical relationship.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. And it is possible, and that's what he's holding out to us. He's saying, well, transform your relationships into holy relationships. Rather than special ones, level of images relating to images, your false self-image relating to another person's false self-image. And then to make it doubly complicated, they project their concept onto you. So they give you an image in their own mind, and you have your own image going on, and you project from that image onto them. So now there's like just multiple levels of confusion going on. Just false self-images trying to interact with each other, and really the only intention of each false self-image is to make itself real in the interaction. And that's what the ego's special relationships are dedicated to fostering and enhancing that sense of a separate self for both parties involved in the relationship. Yeshua's saying that doesn't make any sense. It really is not understandable. And this has no foundation in truth. Okay, next paragraph.
When left vacant, the empty spaces in my understanding call on truth to fill them. No deliberate preparation can make this invitation more genuine. Pure formless awareness of perfect love fills these spaces where truth dwells. Unopposed power is the essence of being, which transcends symbolic representation, while symbols like images can aid in temporary understanding. They ultimately have a limited role. The remembrance of perfect love facilitates a temporary exchange of these symbols until I reach a state where they are no longer needed.
So to recap, we go into this true self. This is why the Holy Trinity idea is operating system is so important, because we go into this true self, and from that true self we perceive correctly, and the images that we perceive incorrectly through the ego are now translated into true perceptions by our true self, or Christ. And that process is what the course is training us to do, ongoing, repeatedly, over and over and over again. So eventually our mind is so clear and so open to the pure formless awareness of perfect love that is behind the true self, through this process of clearing up our perceptions, that we merge. Perception becomes knowledge, and we just merge back into this knowledge, which is just this awareness of perfect love. And we become that again, which we always were, but we'd forgotten, through this process of correcting our mind systematically and progressively, and changing it so that the images are translated. So you could call the Holy Spirit an image translator. It's translating one kind of image into another. You're still perceiving, you still see images, but the images now are light images. The images are images that bring happiness and peace and love and joy to your mind, because of the way you interpret the images. You see, so the images still go, the characters still come and go in the dream. They haven't disappeared yet, but the interpretation of them makes them into a happy dream. And that's really, in a nutshell, what the course is training us to do: translation of images. So that's really what he's saying here. Okay, and the last paragraph of the summary, and then just one key message.
My perception of my companions, inspired by the remembrance of perfect love, despite being incomplete, is inconsistent within itself. Its completeness does not negate the presence of perfect love. And so ultimately I will come to realize that this presence, which replaces every learning aid, merely is.
Okay, thoughts? What's he saying there?
So this, how we see our companions, is going to be inspired with the remembrance of perfect love, despite being incomplete. Its incompleteness does not negate the presence of perfect love. So it's just saying, at the end, we will come to realize that this presence will replace all this learning aid. That's it, simple. That's the end of all the seeking and searching and needing to find out. And
once you've learned it, truly, you don't need learning aids anymore. You know it. You've learned it. A master in any skill doesn't need the learning aids anymore, because they've mastered it. They get it. They have the skill. So it's the same idea.
Well, we can see those that have it. I mean, I know yourself, you seem to be more present, and Sally, she's very present, and I've seen that in a few folks. And I still see myself not quite there yet. The ego still keeps jumping in.
Oh, trust me, Elaine. It's still a work in progress for me. The mind's
right. Yeah, but you're still more present than, say, myself. I suppose if you're going to put a percentage, I'm maybe 20%, you're 60% or whatever, and Sally's 60%.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to measure it. But it's really about just being, can you go into the flow? Can you be present and not get distracted by negative thoughts and, all kinds of stuff coming up. And that's the ongoing practice. I still inevitably thoughts come up. I'm dealing with situations all the time in my other business, but it's great spiritual practice. It's like, okay, well, you got an issue. How do you deal with it? How do you solve that problem?
The
Do
trouble
you
is
use
that
the
money
ego or do
is,
you use the Holy Spirit?
yeah, the thing is with money though, it is a problem for most people because it's our survival. It's what gets us our
Hmm.
food. So this is why we're all sort of anxious, if you know what I mean, because it is literally our survival.
Yeah, in this world, that's, that equates to, okay, well, that
Food
pays your
gets you food.
food, yeah, because you've got to eat apparently, and you've got to have
Yeah.
clothing, you've got to have shelter, and you've got rent to pay, and, blah, 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 on it goes. And of
So
course,
it's
money is then direct, most people have a fearful association with money because, if your scarcity of money means, oh, I might not survive, and my so-called separate self might die because I don't have enough money. That's the fear
which is
that
yeah.
underlies it. And so, then we live with that in this world. It's a crazy situation.
It is because there's
That
enough
it
for all, but yet we've got starvation and then we've got the filthy rich. It's just such a contradiction, the world, isn't it?
well, there's the filthy rich. There's another paradoxical concept, isn't it?
Oh yeah, right.
Filthy rich, yeah. Well, they don't necessarily have to be. They could be actually very spiritual, potentially. It's not really about the money that they have. It's about
No,
the
they've gained it
the
organically.
awareness. How are they using it? Are they able to stay in awareness, or are they going to let the money consume them and get caught up in materialistic fears and desires, or is money just a tool for the spirit to work through
Oh
them
yeah, no,
and
that's different. Like for example, Eckhart Tolle. I mean, he's a multi billion, well, millionaire. I think but he's done it organically. He's not doing it out of greed.
yeah, and
It
he's
just
got a
happens.
foundation, so he probably doesn't handle the money. I think he just kind of does his
Yes.
thing, and he just
So
tries to
his,
he tries to make an impact in the world, so
yeah. So he just
it,
happens to have just through his
yeah.
working through the spirit has brought him billions
Hmm.
and well, not well, millions and millions of
Brilliant. But
pounds.
yeah,
So that's different.
yeah.
He's
So his focus was not to make money. He didn't write The Power of Now to make money. He wrote The Power of Now to express a message, extend a message that was needed in the world. And the same, with all of his teachings. And then, okay, if people resonate with it, and you put together a system that markets it, and they have courses and they charge money, all of that happens. I don't think he's too bothered about any of that. He just shows up and you can see he just teaches. He's like,
so his
I was
money's
listening to
just
him once and he's
organically.
like, oh, well, I'm supposed to, he says, in the program, I'm supposed to do this now. And everyone just kind of laughs because it's like, well, we can just go with the flow. We don't have to do what we're supposed to do. We can go with, what the
And he
spirit
does
inspired. And then he sits on stage and he just talks, whatever comes. There's no,
without a script, no script.
yeah, that's totally spontaneous. I think he goes up. In fact, he said, oh, when I started, I tried to plan it a bit. And he said that was a disaster. It didn't work because I went out of flow.
Mm.
So now I just sit and I'm like, okay, whatever comes up, and I just speak whatever comes up. And if there's questions, then he'll answer the questions, and it's inspired by the spirit. And there's a genuineness and an authenticity to that people resonate with, which is why they listen to him and they watch him and they pay a lot of money to go see him and they read his books because it's coming from the authentic self. He is a representation of the true self in the world, and the wisdom and the peace that comes with that. He represents that to many people, and then he's taught them how to become that. And if you add value like that, then often, if it's packaged, some teachers don't bother with money at all. In the olden days, the Buddha didn't make money; it was all just alms. He wasn't bothered at all by that. But nowadays, like, okay, well, if you have money and you're charging for it, you can do certain things, right? You can run workshops, you can fly to different places, you can all of money facilitates that. So it's helpful if you want to spread your message through the world. But the primary thing should be the message. I want to get my message out. And then the money is a secondary kind of benefit and enabler of that. Very different from, oh, I'm just doing this to get rich, which they are. I mean, I've seen those kind of courses and programs. You have a sense of like, no, that just doesn't resonate because, what's it about? The person's just trying to hook me into something and make some quick money for themselves. And is there any, real intention to help me behind it? Often not. But usually that kind of inauthentic won't last. That's going to be short-lived because people see through that. They go, okay, well, and that comes through in the delivery of a program. That's going to come through in that person's attitude. You're like, okay, well, you don't really care about me. Clearly, you're just doing it for the money. That's gonna filter through if that is their belief. Inevitably in their actions, and then people leave. It's okay, well, it's inauthentic. You're not really walking the talk. The people who are sustainable, like Eckhart Tolle, he's been around a long time, 25 years now, since he wrote The Power of Now. There's an authentic presence there, and they've maintained that. Yeah, so all interesting stuff, and leads us to the final key message. Do you want to read that? I've misperceived my companion.
I've misperceived my companion through contradictory beliefs, leaving gaps in my understanding. Where these gaps remain open, truth fills them. By choosing to let go of my false perceptions, I move beyond these limited perceptions of reality to experience a limitless power and profound peace. And then I must realize that ever-present nature of pure formless awareness experientially and rest in my eternal being forever. Love.
Yeah, it's a nice thought. And that's really what the course is training us to do. Realize this pure formless awareness, it's ever present. It's my true nature. It's my essential nature. It's that which I cannot be separated from. It's that which can never be taken away from me. I suddenly need to realize it. And then I'm home. It's as simple and as difficult as that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So simple. And yet, we try and rest in your eternal being for a few minutes and see what happens.
Sometimes it can happen, but
yeah, you might find some peace. But a lot of times the mind comes in. You start thinking, don't you?
It does. Yes. Yeah. No, because it's not for want of trying. Yeah.
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 And you're thinking about this, and you're thinking about this situation,
It just pops up. Yes.
this relationship, and yeah, it pops up, and then your mind gets caught up in thought. And then if you become aware of that, you go, okay, hang on, like I've just gone down the rabbit hole of thinking again. Let me stop and just quiet my mind, and I might have some moments of just really, peaceful awareness again. And I'm kind of drifting into that, and then a thought pops in. And then I'm thinking again.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. But the ever-present awareness, the pure formless awareness of perfect love, that is your eternal being, there's no thought required. There's no subject-object thought. You, separate self-image concept, are not thinking about another separate self-image in that awareness. Because that awareness doesn't know about separate self-concepts and images and bodies.
Drop it.
So it's meaningless to think about them in that awareness because they don't exist in that awareness. And so the course is trying to take us back to that awareness.
Yeah. Because it's interesting that it is just a slow, very drip, just things just dropping away, like whether it be jobs or whatever, you just know it's ready to go, let it go, let it go. But it's very slow and can be a bit laborious, all this dropping away. You feel like saying, just drop it all.
Yeah. But are you ready to drop it all? That's the question. Just drop it all. Okay.
Oh, yes. The
Still
true
got an
self
attachment
is,
to something, you still value it. And so
the
then you think
separate
about
self is hanging on for dear life.
it. Yeah. And so that's why it takes time. It's a lifetime practice because
Yeah.
that separate self has been around a long, long time, right?
Oh, yeah.
According to cosmologists, the universe has been around something like 15 billion years, give or take a billion or two, 13 to 14 to 15 billion years. We don't know exactly. That is an immensely long amount of time for this idea of separation to be present. And it's developed. And it's now come, you could argue, in human form on this planet to the height of its expression, which is insane. And so that's why we look at this one and we go, it's completely bonkers. It's mad.
Yeah.
This is the height of the ego's expression. It's taken 14 billion years to evolve to the height of madness.
Yeah.
We realize, okay, this is totally insane. We've got to turn around and we need to reverse out of here because this is totally insane. And going further down this track of insanity is getting us nowhere. We're just getting more and more sucked into the insanity. And eventually, I'm going to die anyway. Like, no matter what happens, no matter what I do on this planet, I'm going to die. So what is the point
Mm.
of, all the shenanigans and all the drama and the fears and the
And I mean, you do, like I say, you get the moments of,
desires and the
gee,
wanting and the sickness and the attack thoughts and on it goes. What is the point of it all when you're going to die anyway?
well, I mean, throughout your day, a lot of it is negative. I agree, and of course, you'll get your highs. Like I noticed, I got a really good 5-star Airbnb, really singing the praises, and that gave a high. And then, I
Yeah.
might be starting to think about the stepson, and then that brings a low.
Yeah.
And then maybe I've just realized the car's sort of got a problem. I'm thinking of the pet sitter who's been very disrespectful. We came back, there was so many things broken again. So then there's a low, and then
Uh,
I'll have my dinner, and there's a bit of a neutral. Oh, well, that's nice, my dinner. It's all just
well,
up, down, isn't it? Throughout your day.
it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, So
That's your typical
positive,
day.
negative, it's a very mixed bag. And the
Yeah.
course is saying, well, do you want that? Is that what you choose, or do you choose eternal bliss? Because that's the choice.
Well,
You
exactly.
can have this
Yes.
if you want, and you can carry on in a separated self, and you can try and make sense of it. And it's always going to be a mixed bag, and eventually suffering will come. Eventually, you're going to die. That's inevitable. So, are you choosing that over pure formless awareness of perfect love and the eternal bliss of your true nature? Because that's what the choice is. And he's saying, well, that's a very bad choice. If you're going to choose an illusion over the truth, then what do you expect? Of course, you're going to suffer. Of course, you're going to die because it's your choice to do so. And he can't save us unless we choose differently. Saying, I can't help you if you keep making the wrong choices. I have to help you to make the right choices, which is what this whole course is about. Make the right choice, not one time, not, oh, I've made the right choice and then I'm done. No, make the right choice over and over and over again throughout your day. Because every time you have a situation, you start thinking about something, you have a choice, don't you? You're thinking about the problematic son-in-law, you have a choice. How do I perceive this? Am I going to get angry and upset and stew in this, or am I just going to let this go and brush it off?
Definitely. Yeah, no, oh no, I really deep down want to let it go, of course.
Yeah.
But the
But
separate
you see,
self is still sort of like,
it's easy because your mind gets consumed with it and you start thinking about it.
it's like a dog
And
with a
then the more
bone.
you think about it, the more you feel you're getting angry. You
Oh
find
yeah.
that anger rising and you feel that separation. And then you go, oh, now, like if I catch myself 2 minutes into that, I've gone down the rabbit hole. I'm back in anger,
Mm, yeah,
which
yeah.
is more ego. So this isn't what I want. Okay, now I've got to correct it.
Or then you've got
Let
the
it,
other hand where I'm now superstar, 5 stars, and then you think, oh God, that's
oh,
pressure.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
oh yeah,
Elaine's
that's great. But then,
going for superhost status again. Oh,
yeah, no,
that's
I'm
cool.
up there again. So, but then you
Up
think,
there. And
but
there's
then,
another false
but then,
image because that's not who you are either. You're not Elaine the
yeah,
superhost. You're not Elaine
five
the
stars, 5 stars throughout.
unfairly treated mother-in-law. You're none of that.
Yeah, so
Actually, those
they're both
images are not
not,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah, it's well, yeah, because the 5 stars. Then now you're under pressure. You think, oh crikey, I've got to now keep this up.
yeah. And then
So
there's now I've got to meet the
it's
expectations.
just
then I feel the
It's
pressure.
quite,
And
yeah, it's just
you
so
see that
unpredictable.
it's always it's ups and it's
Yeah,
down
exactly.
by nature. You get a high in the ego, and inevitably that's going to be matched by a low. That's how it goes. You can't have
Uh,
a sudden high and you go, oh wow, like I get this high. I mean, drugs are the obvious example. People who take drugs, oh no, I want to get high, amazing. And when I'm high, I'm
mm.
feeling amazing. And then there's going to be a low
But then
corresponding
there's,
corresponding low that's terrible. Like, and then you go into your low and you start, coming down, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling terrible. And now I need to pick myself up and get back on the high. So I need the drug again. That's the extreme of it, isn't it? A drug addict is just the extreme of that system playing out. And of course, it's very destructive. There's no stable peace. It's this roller coaster ride of highs and lows. And eventually that's going to kill you because the mind is being disturbed continuously. Whereas this teaching is saying, no, let's eliminate the highs and the lows and just find a smooth, calm, peaceful way where there might still be some undulation. You're in the world still. So let's say, use the analogy of a boat. You're on your journey, and sometimes the ocean is going to be a bit rough, and sometimes it's going to be smoother, and sometimes there's going to be a stronger wind, and sometimes there's going to be no wind. But you kind of just flow with it. Okay, it's all okay because I know that underlying it is this deep peace. If you go a few meters below the ocean, it's just deeply peaceful and nothing really changes. And I'm rooted in that peace, even while I'm on the ocean, sailing my way to my wherever my destination is in this world. So there's this deeper, peaceful understanding that we're cultivating with these practices, which is essential. We have to have that deeper understanding to find any kind of peace in the world. If you are just attached to the world of form and you're trying to find peace in that, your peace will be continuously disturbed because that's what it's designed to do. To rest in our ever-present. I must realize the ever-present nature of pure formless awareness experientially and rest in my eternal being forever. Amen. That's what we're aiming to do. And all the practice, all the teachings, in the end, come to that. Can you just rest in that eternal being and be completely happy, peaceful, and the mind is quiet? You're not, thinking endlessly about illusions anymore. Okay, so any
yeah,
other thoughts on that? A good section.
yeah,
That
very
brings us
good.
8:05. I
Yeah.
know you said you wanted to end at 8. I'm happy to do a meditation for you if you want, but if you want to end it here, we can.
Yeah, no, actually, it'd be nice to do a meditation. Actually, that was very good. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. That was, yeah, very profound.
Yeah, well, the text has a depth to it that
It does. Yes, yeah. Oh, I mean, I
hopefully.
like the lessons, but I suppose it's like anything, it changes well, of course. Change is as good as the rest.
Well, it
But
lends
he,
itself to discussion, the text. So the lessons in the middle part, some of those lessons are quite long and definitely worth discussing. But
yeah,
the last 20 odd lessons have been review lessons, very short and sweet, because he's just trying to
yeah,
say, well, experience it. Remember, they're meant to be practiced. You practice it and you go into an experience of
yeah,
it. It's
yes, of
meant to be a
course.
meditation.
But some lessons lend itself better than others.
Yeah,
You go through phases like, I rest in the peace of God, or
yeah.
and choose peace instead of this, or um, the strength. I have the strength of God in myself. My true
Hmm.
strength is in the peace of God. All of those, yeah. You go through ones that are more favorable than others.
Yeah, I mean, they're just different ways to access that same presence. That's all. And he's given you multiple different ways because he just doesn't know what might work for you on any given day. You might find something doesn't work for you one year, and then another year you go, wow, that's profound. I get it. And it's taken me into, quite a deep state. So you just don't know. He's given us multiple different ways. Lesson every day. So, he has to shake it up, even though it is the same lesson, actually, every day. So it's the identical lesson every day, which we're just learning in different ways.
It's just which point is.
All right, so I think let's just read the lesson short, and then we can do a meditation on it.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's just I didn't actually do that. So yeah, if you can read the lesson in the original and the alternative.
God, you've just, yeah. God is my Father, and his Son loves him. Perfect love is my source, and its extension loves it.
Yeah, so like the first one, I mean, I find that quite difficult to resonate. God is my Father and his Son loves him. It's kind of, the language doesn't really work for me.
No.
But alternatively, perfect love is my source and its extension loves it. And that's okay. Perfect love is my source and I'm its extension who loves it. So just remind myself, maybe next year I'll change it. I am its extension who loves it. Might be even more personal. Yeah. It's essentially what it's saying. I am its extension who loves this perfect love that is my source. And then, we just reflect on it. So very short prayer. Shall I read the original? You read the alternative. So, Father, I must return your love for me.
Yeah, but
Forgiving and receiving are the same. And you have given all your love to me. And then read an alternative.
My source, I must return your love for me, for giving and receiving are the same, and you have given all your love to me.
I must return it, for I wanted mine in full awareness, blazing in my mind and keeping it within its kindly light. Inviolate, beloved, with fear behind and only peace ahead.
I must return it, for I want it to be mine in full awareness, blazing in my mind, and keeping it within its kindly awareness, safe, beloved, with fear behind and only peace ahead.
How still the way your loving Son is led along to you.
How still the way your loving extension is led along to you.
And we say, how still is the way your loving extension? How still is the way your loving extension is led along to you. Yeah, so read it from the top. Reflect on it.
Right. Just, I've got quite a few chores to do, so I don't want to spend too much more time because my dog's just had a big long wee. So
all right.
I've still got quite a lot of chores to do.
Let's go into the.
I've got a cat. Whoops! There's a cat that's peeing all. You little you.
Happy.
Yeah, sorry. It's just I've got problems at the moment. Yeah, it's just I've got a cat that's peeing all over the furniture.
Okay. You need to go then, or can you?
All of a sudden, I've got a dog.
Yeah. You need to go, Elaine, or can you finish this?
Because it's all of a sudden I've got. Do you mind if I? Yeah, I'm going to have now. Sort of, got things to do. Yeah.
Okay, so read the alternative just to end on a still note. Read that just to calm you down, and then we'll end it. I find that stillness now.
Honestly, I've got wee all over the place.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to
I find that stillness now.
Yeah.
The way is open. Now I follow it in peace together with Yeshua.
Hello? Did you read the rest? Or? Did you finish it? You just went off
Yeah,
it.
no, I am. I'm here. Yes, I don't know what happened.
Oh,
Don't
did
know
you
what's
finish?
happened with the connection.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, or just
No,
stay
no,
still.
it just it disconnected for some reason.
Oh, really? Okay. All right, well, just finish it and get yourself into a state of calm, and then you
Yeah,
can go on to deal with
I think
whatever.
this is, situation that arrived. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it needs done. Yeah, because it's a moment. I have reached my hand to him, and believe me, we are one, and it is only this oneness that I seek as we accomplish these few final steps. It was.
Yeah. So just let
You
that
still there?
stillness that it's talking about, so while you're cleaning up the cat pee and whatever else, the art of it of letting go is to stay in the stillness. Still there. I'm still connected to the stillness, even while I operate and function in the world. And I'm able to deal with whatever, it's not saying don't clean up the cat pee, do, but do it in a still calm way rather than a flustered, upset way. Hmm. Okay. Well, I guess that's it for the lesson then. So let's end it there, shall we? So thank you for watching or listening. If you've watched or listened to the live stream, you can take the next step and subscribe to the channel if you like the content. By all means, do that. You'll be notified whenever I go live, which is 3 or 4 times a week. And watch it on YouTube. You can also go to lifebuild.com. If you're watching the video, you can see that in the background. Just type lifebuild and .com, and there's a link below this video in the comments box. Elaine, you're back. You're back. I was just ending off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you disappeared.
Yeah, no, you
Sorry,
disappeared.
you
So
disappeared.
I thought
I don't know
I
if it's
thought
your
you,
end or my end.
yeah,
Just
no,
while you were
you
doing
just,
that, I was just.
yeah,
Oh, was it
yeah.
my end? Was it?
I think
Oh,
so. Yeah,
oh,
yeah. You
strange.
dropped off, but never
Oh,
mind. If you need to go now, you can go. And I was just
yeah,
saying,
yeah, better.
the
Yeah.
key thing is you stay still through the catfish. To put it in a nutshell, stay calm and still
Oh, yeah.
and
Well, yeah.
unfrustrated
No, this is my.
through all of it.
Of
Mm.
course. Well, it's just another test, isn't it? Another test. Obviously,
Mm.
to be honest, it's incredible at the moment. Since I've come back from England, the place is stinking of animals. It's the dog is incontinent all of a sudden, and
Yeah,
now we've got a male cat that
yeah,
is peeing. Where whenever my back's turned, it's having a little pee, and I can sit on it,
right,
and it's got this almighty smell. And I
right.
realized that my separate self is getting so angry with him. And I
Yeah,
even said, I said to him, I said to Dave, I said, that's it, he's getting rehomed. But then obviously that was in anger. And then, of course,
yeah,
5 minutes later, I couldn't have the heart to do it. It's a case of
yeah,
just policing it and making sure that the door's shut so he doesn't get in.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, I love them, and I mean, bless
Mm,
the old dog. She's 16 years old. So, you know,
mm,
obviously
mm.
the incontinence has got to be. So I'm getting it policed, and I've got pads all over the
Yeah,
living room. Um,
yeah, yeah. But these are the tests of the physical world, and you're very easy to lose your peace, get
occasionally,
upset. But
I
the
don't,
teaching is don't, find that
yes,
undisturbed
and I realize,
while you're literally cleaning up the pee and the shit. Literally. While you're doing that, you have to find this deeper peace and stay in it.
yes,
And you can. because on a level you're not affected by any of it.
Oh, yes.
Hmm. So yeah,
No,
it's all
yes,
part of the practice. You know,
when,
the dog's doing that. Instead of going, oh, this shouldn't be happening, you go, no, it's just another test. So the ego testing me on my, my ability to stay in peace, no matter what seems to be happening on the level of form. So you just perceive it as another test, which is going to help you to let go of another level of
have
the
I
ego.
lost
Helpful.
you?
Hmm. Okay. Anything
Ah,
else, Celine?
I'll probably hear you better now. I've just realized I was on a different Wi-Fi. Now it might be
Yeah, it's
clearer.
saying your network bandwidth is low. So
Oh, right, okay.
hmm.
Yeah, so no, that's great. I mean, great chapter. Yeah, no, that was very
Hmm.
beneficial. Thank
Well, it kind
you.
of works now, when the text is short, when the lessons are short, then it kind of works to end the session with them because you can do the meditation to end. You do the lesson and then
Exactly,
you go
yes.
straight into the med,
Yeah,
and then
no,
that's a
that's
nice way to
that's
end the session because then you're like, okay, I'm now hopefully, zone
ready
in a
to
zone
zone out.
or
Yeah, I
ready
was
ready
looking
ready
forward
to
to the,
relax and go to bed. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, and it
exactly.
can
So
work. We didn't get to do. I'm happy to do a meditation if you want, but you've got to go and
Uh,
sort.
yeah, I better
Yeah.
because the peel get ingrained and then
Yeah.
yeah. So I better get down to duties now and then get back in the
Yeah.
center, get straight
Yeah.
back in there.
Hmm.
This is yeah, because what happens is the mind goes and then the body's off getting its contractions and yeah, so it's
Hmm.
getting it before it
Yeah.
gets
How
into
are
that.
you feeling? You feeling any better? You said your health was
Yes,
was.
I'm a bit, but oh, you mean my throat? Actually, funny
Yeah.
enough, there's been some clearance with that.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's because I have been going into the presence and just being and not doing so much.
Hmm.
So there is a bit of clearance going on there. So I find
Okay.
if I do go into those, what you call, not looking into the backwards or forwards and just who are you?
Yeah.
And if I can just continue to do that, it does keep my body quiet. And then
Hmm.
yeah, so, but
Hmm.
again, obviously, I went straight into red alert with the cat ready to pee on
Hmm.
the sofa again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's really tricky. Yeah, it's like
Well, can
it's
you
if the
can you can you cope with cat pee and dog shit in presence? That's that's the
that's yeah at the
that's the
moment
lesson.
working.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
say I keep saying work in progress, but I can get back into the center a
Hmm.
bit quicker. But
And you do
it's
it while you're doing it. Okay, so I'm cleaning up the cat pee, but I'm totally surrendered. There's no resistance, there's no
right.
upset, there's no. That's the key. Yeah. If you
I
can, if
can
you
do
can do
that.
that, that's like enlightenment. You're there.
Well, I
If you
can
can
do
stay
it
present, as
sometimes.
present as that when literally the shit hits the fan,
I,
then
yeah, well, I
it's a good
can do
test.
it, but then,
Hmm.
like I say, at this instance, I was actually catching the cat doing it. So
Hmm.
I had to jump off my chair and shout at him so that he
Yeah.
knows that he's not allowed to do it, even though he
Yeah.
doesn't take a blind bit of notice of me. But at least it stopped
Yeah, so
because,
sometimes action is needed, but can you do it calmly? That's the idea. Okay,
well,
it's
I
like,
can. I mean,
yeah,
if I could,
yeah.
in fact, I'll put the camera on now and I'll show you exactly the state of this house with all this cat pee. There, that's my sofa.
Well, just bear in mind we're being recorded. We're being recorded.
Oh, is it
I'm
being
seeing the ceiling at the moment. Right. Oh, nice. Okay.
the cushions are all up in the washing machine,
Yeah.
and then there's pee all over there. So, it's no word of a lie. This whole house is just covered in covers trying to sort cats
Animal
out.
excrement.
And then there's a big
Yeah.
puddle of wee just there. And
The cat's
it's like
dog.
a laundry room. And I've got these pads pads all over the place. You see
you laugh. Yeah,
yeah, you've just got to laugh, really, haven't you?
yeah, yeah.
So
Like,
the Holy Spirit is giving me, well, not the Holy Spirit, the separate self is really doing a fast one on me.
giving you a test, but
Yes,
when you,
it is.
when you stay present, unfazed by it all, that's the key. So,
But that's right. That's right.
keep
Yeah. So
practicing. Keep
yeah,
practicing.
yeah. Anyway,
And,
thanks very
yeah,
much.
I'll see you tomorrow, I hope.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
I mean
do
that's
an
actually
afternoon
given
session.
me a no. It's given me a bit of motivation. Actually, that was really very beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll carry on. We can do the text first and then the lesson because
Yeah,
it's
that's great.
works in the second part of the workbook. It works quite well to do that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So tomorrow
oh yeah.
afternoon, if you join at
Um,
1, is that
yeah,
doable?
might be about 2 because I know there's something wrong with the car, so I do need to get that sorted. So possibly about 2 I could get there, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Two till about 4:30.
yeah, great. Okay,
Okay. Thanks,
okay,
Elaine.
see you then.
Stay.
Thanks.
All
Bye.
right.
Namaste.
Stay. Bye for now. Okay, take 2 on the wrap. Thank you to Elaine for joining. If you enjoyed that live session, then by all means subscribe to the channel to be notified whenever I go live. You can also go to lifepool.com and sign up there to the Telegram group, which I send out a daily inspirational quote, which includes the quote that I shared up front, some teaching around that, some resources, often a movie or video clip. There's a daily lesson from A Course in Miracles. There's text reading, which is translated into alternative language. All of it's freely available at lifepool.com. Just sign up and you need Telegram on your phone or device, and you can get access to it completely free for 3 weeks. If you'd like to follow on from that, then there's a cost to the program, but you can give it a free trial. So yeah, hope you'll do that. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button if you'd just like to be notified whenever I go live. And I hope to see you on the inside soon. So thanks again for listening and watching, and namaste, which means the true, unfazed, peaceful self in me acknowledges and honors that same true, unfazed, peaceful self in you. Showing you much love, peace.